And then I was very embarrassed to narrate this to anybody. Believe me, this movie has got rejected by producers and actors more than any other movie of mine.
No kidding.
And many of them. The first person actually was the actress Preeti Zinta. She was the first person who liked this story, this script and this character. When I was narrating it to her, she burst out laughing at a certain point. And I thought she's laughing at me. And I said, I got a little awkward about it, and then she just looked at me and she said, "This is really funny. Are you liking it?" She says, "I'm loving it."
20 years later, you are much more mature, she's much more mature. Would you want to cast her in another film of yours?
I would love to cast Kareena again in a film, and I will.
How is this film different from other partition movies?
It's a contemporary movie. So this is not the first generation story, not even the second generation. The third generation is what we show in Vaapas Aaunga.
So is it a political movie or is it a period romance?
It's the personal story of thousands and thousands of people.
We are talking about a Muslim girl and a Sikh boy.
Usually people used to get married very early those days. What I realized after talking to hundreds of partition veterans is that what sustained them is the love in their hearts.
Tell me, where do these stories come from? Do they come from personal experiences or does someone come up to you and say, I've got a story idea, let's write it together? कहाँ से वो आता है आपके?
वो बोलते हैं ना, गालिब का शेर याद आ गया
जी.
आते हैं गैब से ये मज़ामी ख्याल में. I'm basically a daydreamer.
Hello and welcome back to PTI's podcast. Some filmmakers tell stories, others create worlds that stay with us long after the credits roll. Our guest today belongs firmly in the second category. One such world he created was Jab We Met, my personal all-time romantic film. For more than 2 decades, Imtiaz Ali has explored some of the most intimate corners of human experience. What has always fascinated me about his cinema is that it treats relationships not as destinations but as journeys. They are messy, transformative, sometimes heartbreaking, but always deeply human. His latest film, Main Vaapas Aaunga, takes us back to an extremely emotional chapter of the subcontinent's history. It is set partly in undivided India before partition. It tells the story of an unfulfilled love between a Sikh boy and a Muslim girl. It's a relationship shaped and ultimately scarred by one of the most turbulent moments in our past. The story unfolds through the memories of the Sikh protagonist, now in his 90s and nearing the end of his life, as he revisits a love that time could not erase. Today we will talk about all of that and much more. About cinema, storytelling, love, memory, music, travel, identity, and the people and experiences that shape an artist's imagination. It's a pleasure to welcome one of the most distinctive voices in Indian cinema. Imtiaz Ali, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Imtiaz, your latest film, Main Vaapas Aaunga, revolves around partition, as I just now mentioned.
Yes.
It's a very turbulent period in our history. How is this film different from other partition movies like 1947, for example, or Gadar, or Batwara 1947?
To begin with, this is placed in the present time. It's a contemporary movie. And here there's a gentleman who is 95 years old, and he, on his deathbed, as it were, is still engaged with the thoughts of the time of his youth when he was in college, and it revolves around a personal memory which he never shared in his life with everybody.
Played by Nasiruddin Shah.
Played by Nasiruddin Shah, like this 95-year-old Sikh gentleman. So the context of the time is now, and therefore it's a contemporary story looking back at the events of partition 78 years later.
So is it a political movie or is it a period romance?
It's a very personal story. It's the story of love, longing, loss, and
like I said, all like most of your films are.
But also I feel that this personal story is the personal story of thousands and thousands of people. When they crossed the border, when they came to this side from the other side, against their choice, they carried many items. They carried their potlis and their trunks and their jewelry and money, etc., coins in their turbans, but they also carried love in their hearts, which later became memories, which later became a kind of a personal jewel that they could return to at any moment where they felt too down or depressed. We can only guess how hard their lives would have been in reality. We can talk about the turbulence, we can talk about the violence that they might have seen, but it's very difficult to ascertain the despair that they went through. But I think what I realized after talking to hundreds of partition veterans is that what sustained them is the love in their hearts.
You know, I was struck by the story, by the fact that we are talking about a Muslim girl and a Sikh boy. Is this an outlier case, or was it very common? During your research, did you find that there were many such cases? Because I have not heard of any such romance.
Well, there were a few. Usually people used to get married very early those days.
True.
And so at a very early age, people that were exposed and were in a co-educational kind of an atmosphere did have romances, and they did have ambition to get married, and some of them did. There are some cases that I have found in, especially in the elite classes, where because of the Western influence. See, we feel that the Purana Zamana was very backward.
Or conservative.
But that was not the case. I found in my research that actually many of these Lahore educated and all these colleges in Delhi and other places, the students were very, very modern. Very liberal, extremely westernized as well, because their teachers were Western people, their teachers were English.
Yeah.
They even had English matrons and housemakers at home, caretakers at home to teach them etiquette. So, for instance, if you see Raj Kapoor's interviews talking in English, or Dilip Kumar's or Devanand's, their English is immaculate because their teachers were Englishmen.
Impeccable accents.
That's
true.
That is also a loss that happened in partition. So somehow in my research I found out that the aesthetic loss of the partition, the color, the art, the language, we have suffered in those ways, and there's no accounting for that. There is no voice speaking about the artistic or the aesthetic loss that partition has caused. Anyway, that's a very subtle point.
Yeah.
But yes, there were many cases of romance because those people were very liberal. Women used to drive cars. What I'm trying to point out is that the culture was extremely liberal.
Imtiaz, so you actually answered my next question. I was going to ask you, what did you learn about anything? Did you learn anything new about partition during the making of this film? And this is something that you have learned and I have learned, that aesthetic loss. That's a very, very valid point.
But I also learned this other fact that, actually a doctor told me, a psychiatrist told me that, see, there are so many cases, there are extreme numbers of cases of Alzheimer's and dementia in Punjab. And among the so-called refugees. And I learned that when a person loses memory, they do so from page by page, from right to left, as they were, so that they lose their present time memory first, and then the last things that remain in their minds are the images or the memories of their early youth and childhood. So I used that in the film.
Yes.
The other thing that I learned is that while these people have gone through the tough times of partition and after, and building their lives, and many of them are also hugely successful as a result of the hard work they put in, what they talk about are only beautiful memories. They don't talk about the hatred. I met hundreds of them. Actually, I was driving into various places in Punjab to meet veterans of partition who have seen partition from their own eyes and have an account to tell, and they have good enough memories to share. And then I learned that they are only talking about good things, beautiful things that they miss. They're talking about trees in their gardens. They're talking about the girl that used to come to their father's shops, and they used to go secretly to look at her because they knew that she had come there for them. Or the fact that there was a river bank that they used to go with friends and sit, and so somebody's written a poetry about that. Beautiful things, tender things. there is this lady who was so obsessed about a doll that when she, on her deathbed, she was restless because she was in the memory of her childhood, thinking that while they were moving across during partition, she was obsessed by the thought that is that doll in the sandook or have I left it on my in my room, and that was the turbulence. That's how the turbulence reached her soul, I feel. When she was dying, she was only asking her daughter and everybody around who she recognized none of them, but she was only asking them, वो गुड़िया को संदूकची में डाला है, वो गुड़िया को संदूकची में डाला है. I venture to think that young people, especially those that find themselves to be in love and all of that, would be very selfish at the time of crossing, and they might be obsessed by a personal article or a personal feeling rather than the trying to take a grab on the entire sociological disturbance that is happening. You know, everybody's point of view might have been very, very personal. However, these personal memories are the ones that remain till the end. You know, while they know the data, they know what has happened, but their obsession is always with that beautiful thing, which they also kept in their hearts throughout. And that sustained them through their hardships.
You know, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to this, and thank you for bringing this aspect of the partition. I had never thought of partition in this term. It is always a very cruel episode.
Yeah.
And
which it was, of course. There's no denying that. But
the word partition to me implies violence and death and bloodshed and separation. But I never thought of it in this fashion.
Yeah, because hearts were broken too. You know, it was not only that homes were.
And you have cast Nasruddin Shah as the protagonist. He's an amazing actor. You also have two very young actors, Vedang, who plays the young Nasir.
Nasir, yes.
And then you have Sharbari, who I think looks like Geeta Bali. I don't know why, but I think she looks like Geeta Bali. She has this really retro look and the spunky look. How did you strike the balance as a director between working with a veteran and novices?
These two were different timelines to begin with. There was the timeline of 1946-47, where we were talking about Ishar, the same character, being played by Vedang. Yeah, so then it was actually quite interesting for me to play the same character in two time zones.
For you as a director?
As a director, it was very interesting and very challenging. And here I tried not to do the typical thing of having a lot of commonalities in language or in gestures, etc. Because 78 years is such a long time that, like one gentleman told me, that I don't even know whether what I remember is memory or imagination. I might just be imagining it. I don't really know whether it happened in this way. Yes, as you said, Sharbari, in fact, when I saw her, I was very thrilled and excited about this aspect, that she looked like one of those film heroines of the 40s and 50s, and who had this modern hairstyle of the day, and singing songs like Mera Naam Chin Chin Choo and all of that, the Western retro of the Western songs of the time of the 40s and the 50s. She has that look, and she has also the Geeta Bali type of a...
Do you agree with me or not? That
absolutely. I agree that she has the Geeta Bali, the spirit, the Geeta Bali was so, she was so bright and lit.
Chirpy and ebullient. Very much like Geet in Jab We Met. We'll come to Geet later.
Yes, okay.
Tell me, where do these stories come from? Do they come from personal experiences, or does someone come up to you and say, I've got a story idea, let's write it together? Well, all these stories are about relationships.
Yes.
All these stories have women as the central character. Maybe not in Vaapas Aaunga, but definitely the other movies. कहाँ से वो आता है आपके?
वो बोलते हैं ना, गालिब का शेर याद आ गया जी, आते हैं गैब से ये मिज़ामी ख्याल में. Come from vacuum. We don't know where these stories come from. Mostly from the subconscious. But I feel that I get inspired by things that I see around me.
Okay.
And I build my imagination on
Any
on the
personal
incidents.
experiences, a personal well that you dig into,
Draw from.
drop from?
Yeah, more than a well, it is just, see, my mental constitution is that of a daydreamer. I'm basically a daydreamer.
Okay.
And I sit in the room and I imagine things to entertain myself. I've been doing that ever since I remember. In classrooms, in journeys, in trains and everywhere. Just daydreaming for entertainment. So usually I see something, I see someone, and then I start thinking about them, on them, much after they have left. I'm still thinking about what might have happened, where could they have gone, and who lives in that house when I look at it from the train when it stops at Ratlam station and things like that. And these stories add up. Then I think about these, how it would be to actually go to that kind of a hotel and stay when I'm kind of crossing in the train. So daydreaming really is my source of sustenance. That's the well that I draw from. Some of those, like an infection in the body, keep building and building. And more parts get added to that imagination and starts acquiring the shape of a story. And then it becomes something that has to be ejected from the system because I find myself talking about that story to everybody. जैसे गुलजार साहब का एक गाना था कि दोस्तों से झूठी मूठी दूसरों का नाम लेके तेरी मेरी बातें करना.
साथिया.
In Satya he did this. So मेरी भी हालत वैसे ही हो जाती है कि मैं अगर ऑटो रिक्शा में भी जा रहा हूँ तो किसी बहाने से ऑटो वाले को भी वो कहानी सुना देता हूँ जो मेरे दिमाग में चल रही है. फिर एक वक्त आता है जब मैं उसको लिख देता हूँ. So usually, for instance, I've been on the train many times, and being a young boy going to college in the train from Jamshedpur to Delhi, I would invariably have some or the other girl in the compartment, and then there would be this aankhon aankhon mein type kind of a thing, and then it was like if we were to miss our train, if she was to miss her train over here in Kota or Ratlam or one of these stations that used to come, what would happen? What would she face? And then if I were also to miss my train, then how would we find our way? And so
this is what is going on in your mind.
Yes.
ये एक story बन रही है आपके दिमाग में.
फिर कई साल के बाद जब something I'm writing, then this shows up and then I write about it.
So जब आप 18-20 साल के थे, were you a flirt?
I was not a flirt. I was a very committed boyfriend.
Okay.
Already.
Okay.
I mean, it was, and I've been so. So it's not as though, but ख्याल में तसव्वुर में तो बहुत कुछ हो सकता है.
कुछ भी हो सकता है. अब आपके जो इम्पोर्टेंट फिल्म से मैं उनके नाम ले लेता हूँ. You started with सोचा ना था. जी. उसके बाद में आई
जब वी मेट.
फिर बाद में लव आजकल. फिर हाईवे.
नहीं, उसके बाद रॉकस्टार.
फिर हाईवे, फिर अमर सिंह चमकीला.
हाँ, उसके बीच में भी एक दो फिल्में आई.
हाँ, हैरी मेट सेजल वो भी है. Is there a thread that runs through all these movies, or are they all individually discrete kind of movies?
Well, I would like to believe that there is no thread running through all of them.
But हम लोगों को दिखता है.
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल. वो और जो आपका ऑब्जर्वेशन है वही सही होगा. क्योंकि दुकानदार तो अपना माल बेचते ही है. वो तो अपने हर सामान को यूनिक बताएगा ही. बट फिर आपको see, as a director, I would love if I leave no scent behind in any of my works. That if all of them are unique and distinct from each other, I would love that. But there is a common thread, I guess, which I'm unable to wipe out.
What is the common thread?
If I were to look, I feel that there is always, and I try to break this. Like after Jab We Met, I didn't want to have a very articulate character in a film, like a person who expresses or over-expresses through conversation. But I feel that might happen sometime. The conversation and the over-expression. It's a tendency that I have to restrain in me as a writer. Secondly, there is I feel a kind of a internal conflict, usually, this time not, but usually an internal conflict that like you're predisposed in a certain way, and
Right.
something else happens, and then there is a drama.
Yeah.
Part of it is the internal conflict about how do I do this when I'm actually committed to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So it's like the lack of a villain, so to speak. I find that there is no bad person in any of my films, and you know that's a trait, and I don't know what to do about it, because everybody who I've met in my life has not turned out to be exactly a bad person.
Right.
Especially people that were supposed to be bad people
Yeah.
have turned out to be quite nice actually, and sometimes lonely.
फिर तो आप धुरंधर जैसी पिक्चर बना नहीं सकते आप.
नहीं, मैं लाइफ इज लॉन्ग, मैं ज़रूर बनाऊंगा.
बनाएंगे?
कोशिश होगी कि दूसरे किस्म की भी फिल्म बनाई जाए. धुरंधर तो शायद मैं ना बना पाऊँ, बट मुझे एतराज़ नहीं होगा धुरंधर बनाने में.
What do you think of धुरंधर? देखी आपने पिक्चर?
नहीं, मैंने देखी नहीं है एक्चुअली. मैंने काफ़ी लेट देखी.
मैंने भी नहीं देखी, और सब मुझे कोसते हैं कि क्यों नहीं देखी, कैसे बेवकूफ़ आदमी होते हैं.
एक्चुअली मैंने ना अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये बहुत गलत किया. मैंने मेरी पूरी मिस हो गई बिकॉज मैं इस फिल्म में काम कर रहा था.
हाँ.
और मैंने पहले पार्ट का नेटफ्लिक्स पे देखा.
हाँ.
थोड़ा सा.
हाँ.
क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि मुझे बड़े पर्दे पर ही देखनी चाहिए. ये फिल्म तो बड़े पर्दे के लिए है. एंड इट वाज अ वेरी एंगेजिंग फिल्म. It's a very engaging film. It is very passionately made also.
True.
See, while somebody might not agree with their politics, and you know there is always an opinion and all of that, but I was so happy for two reasons with the outcome of Dhurandhar. One is that people came to the theatres. The second is that films of a certain length were allowed to be made after Dhurandhar. My film is 2.5 hours, and nobody objected to the length. If Dhurandhar was not made and was not a hit, they would all say बहुत लंबी है, थोड़ा काटो सर.
या तो ये जो धुरंधर का जो सक्सेस है, इससे आपको क्या लगता है कि ऑडियंसेस डू दे प्रेफर ग्रैंड स्पेक्टिकल्स, और डू दे लाइक मूवीज लाइक द वे आई लाइक योर मूवीज?
No, I feel they need a strong invite. I think they need a very clear and a strong invite, which forms the reason for them to take the effort and go to a cinema theatre. And it's about money, it's about time, but it's also about having that, the breaking of the inertia of being at home and watching something, of breaking that and going out, just moving on. And they would love to do that. They would love to wear better clothes. They would love to go and have a community experience, because community experiences are shrinking now.
Yeah.
And so they need a strong invite. They feel that, oh, you know what, it seems to be this kind of a story, and it seems to have all of these elements, and I'm sure that we can all have a good time when we go there.
Right.
Then also I feel that they rely upon, if somebody has seen it and says, boss, ये बहुत अच्छी picture है, आप जाके देख लो, they feel strongly, then they go. I think word of mouth has become very important.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I love about your movies is that the lines are really down to earth. They are the way people actually speak. They're not pretentious. They're not dramatized. वो one classic line is of course जब we met में when you introduce गीत करीना कपूर, वो जब ट्रेन में घुसती है और उसका हाथ पकड़ा होता है किसी पैसेंजर ने, वो कहती है अब तो आज छोड़ दो, इतनी भी सुंदर नहीं हूँ मैं. Where did that come from? Did you write that line?
Yeah, I wrote that line, yes.
And every other memorable line in that movie, जो अंशुमन कहता है कि गन्ने के खेत में क्यों जाऊँ मैं, क्यों मुझे ले आते हो गन्ने के खेत, ये भी आपका था.
You know, it is surreal and almost bizarre that that you should be mentioning that line so many years, like 2 decades later, literally.
Yeah.
Because I wrote all these lines in a hurry. This film was significant because there was no time.
Achha.
We did not have time to prepare. I did not have time to write the dialogue. Everything has happened like on the back of a truck, literally. Like we are all running and lines have to be written. Actually, the whole dialogue draft, so to speak, was written because we had gone for our only recce, the location scout. We had gone to Manali, and as luck would have it, it snowed out and we were trapped in a hotel.
Okay.
And the whole day I had to be in the hotel and I couldn't get out of my room because it was all snow-logged everywhere. And sitting in the room, I was feeling terrible because this film, I had only 21 days to start. Like the day we decided to get on with the film, I had 21 days to shoot. In those 21 days, I had to do all the pre-production, which means I had a basic screenplay, but I had to still finish that screenplay, and I had to write all the dialogue. I had to make all the music. I had to decide all the locations everywhere in the country that we had to shoot. We had to organize how we are going to shoot the train. We had to make the team. Everything would have to happen in 21 days. So, since I was writing the dialogue, nobody was even thinking about how this is going to be managed, and I knew that I didn't have the time. So when I was snowed out, झक मार के मुझे बैठ करके कि मैं क्या करूं, आई वाज फीलिंग सो टेरिबल दैट वैसे ही दिन कम है और मेरा 1-2 दिन यहाँ ख़राब होने वाला है। उस एक रात और एक दिन में मैंने ये सारे डायलॉग लिखे, और इसको मुड़ करके मैंने वापस नहीं देखा कि ये ठीक है कि गलत है, मैं बस लिखता गया
ये कहाँ से आया है, मैं भी इतनी सुंदर नहीं हूँ, कहाँ से आया है ये। आई रियली आई एम लाइक सो कीन, वो इट दैट लाइन, शी कैप्चर्ड द हार्ट्स ऑफ एवरी व्यूअर विद दैट लाइन. That is the first appearance, and you know that you are in for a ride after this. The way she comes across, and she's so ebullient, ekdam effervescent, that ekdam Punjabi girl.
That's what it is. That's what it really was. If you have traveled in the DTC buses in Delhi, you might have also come across girls like this. I have.
Okay.
Girls who would talk like this. Perhaps not this exact line, but would say things like this.
Yeah. And say things like, by God, बचपन से मुझे शादी का बहुत शौक था.
Actually, yeah. I think I've in Delhi, because I've studied here and I've been around in buses and been in all kinds of places in Delhi. I feel that many girls over here talk like that. They overshare.
Yeah.
And then they also tell you to not take it in the wrong way just because they are oversharing. And it's very, very, very fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Yeah. So I think it's my experiences in Delhi buses and
that inspired you with these wonderful lines. Yeah. आप वैसे हैं जमशेदपुर
का.
फिर then you studied in Delhi, Patna, then Delhi, Bombay, Xavier's Institute of Communications.
Yes.
तो इसमें पंजाब कहाँ से आ गया? You have made जब भी met, अमर सिंह चमकीला, लव आजकल, और अब ये मैं वापस आऊँगा. What is your fascination with Punjab? You have nothing to do with Punjab.
I am not from
Now, how dare you make movies on Punjab?
Yeah, sometimes I think that, how do they allow me to make movies of Punjab? But it is their fault. They accepted Jab We Met. And when Jab We Met was released, I started seeing a lot of Punjabi people coming over and coming up to me and talking in Punjabi, which is a language I had no idea about at that point of time.
Right.
And when they realized that I'm not Punjabi, they were very surprised because they felt that the film somehow had the scent of Punjab. It seemed authentic to them.
True.
And because so many people from Punjab were always coming across and talking, etc., I felt a sense of comfort with them. And I was very happy about the fact that they've accepted this film. And they all felt very nice that, Punjabi characters are not shown as buffoons in this film and so on and so forth. And there is... And Punjab is India. The family tradition is just the family tradition in any part of North India at least.
Yeah.
And the grandfather in the house used to, say that मैं कह रहा था कि ऐसा होने वाला है and ऐसे ही हुआ and all of that. We've seen our grandfathers talk like that in our houses, and the rakh raghav, lihaz and all of that बाबा जी के सामने जा रही हो, थोड़ा दुपट्टा ओढ़ के जाओ, and all of that is just Indian culture.
Right.
So things are in common, and the things that are not in common, which I was not aware of, when I went and shot in Punjab, I became aware of them. And people in Punjab who were just standing in the crowd also pointed out to the inaccuracies that we were making.
Okay.
And thank God for it that I corrected them in time. I said कोई बात नहीं, एक शॉट फिर से ले लेंगे, इनकी आप ना पगड़ी का कलर चेंज करो, इनको दूसरी पगड़ी बनाओ, ये लहरिया पगड़ी नहीं पहनेगा जट से. Things like that I didn't know.
Right.
And then after a while I started seeing that. I started seeing the pattern that these people were talking about. It drew me closer to these people.
Yeah.
Literally जब भी मेट की शूटिंग जब हम पंजाब में नाभे में कर रहे थे ना, निक्कू की हवेली में एक कमिटी आती थी.
अच्छा.
वो जो लोग थे उस शहर के, वो आकर के वहाँ बैठते थे और मैं उनको कहता था आप आया करो.
हाँ.
और आप बताना अगर हम कोई गलती कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज हम बॉम्बे के, हमें पता नहीं है.
करीना कपूर 2 पंजाबी है, वो भी बॉम्बे की है. She probably has no idea about.
Yes, she's not a Punjabi speaking girl.
Right.
And Shahid is also like
Right.
Punjabi,
Kapoor, but
at
yeah.
least he's a Kapoor, but they have not lived in Punjab, and even the Punjabis of Delhi have not much idea about what
Very
goes on
true.
really in Punjab, and anyhow, so they pointed in that direction, and then we took it, and then their hearts opened, and then I felt. We were shooting without any preparation, and every day that I was shooting that film, I didn't know whether we will sustain another day and shoot tomorrow. We were just trying to make good today's shoot.
Yeah.
It was literally like that.
Right.
And this was a story that I wasn't even very proud of, honestly.
Why?
Jab we met, because I used to write this. I wrote this script just to entertain myself. I never thought this film was good enough to be made. It was just my personal toy, so to speak, Jab we met. I used to, because it took such a long time for Socha Na Tha to get completed, in order to keep myself like busy. I used to write many scripts.
Okay.
And one day I had written Jab we met. And then I used to just fancy the thought of this film. It was literally like for my own entertainment.
My God, thank God you made the movie.
And then I was very embarrassed to narrate this to anybody, honestly. And believe me, this movie has got rejected by producers and actors more than any other movie of mine.
No kidding.
And many of them. Many of them.
What is the flaw they found in the...
What is this movie about? What is it achieving? There is no conflict. And it's quite silly, actually, things that are happening in this film. Why will they accept Shahid Kapoor's character in the end? Why will Shahid Kapoor say that, yes, I am the guy that she had originally run away with, and so on and so forth. And so this was getting rejected a lot. And I remember, and there are so many people that contributed. The first person actually was the actress Preeti Zinta. It took a long time for Jab we met to even find its cast. I had narrated it one time to Preeti Zinta, and I would, these things are somehow not recorded in the psyche of the film industry, but she was the first person who showed she was the first person who liked this story, this script, and this character.
Then why didn't she?
No, it didn't work out because the film couldn't get made at that point of time.
Okay.
And then it went on, and then I put it on the side, and I started making or trying to make other films.
Yeah.
And but she's the one, and when I was narrating it to her, she was the first actor or the first outsider that I have ever told this story
and
to.
She liked it.
She burst out laughing at a certain point where in the railway station, Shahid's character Aditya just runs away from Geet,
and
right?
Goes up the stairs.
चोर चोर चिल्लाते हुए फिर उसके पीछे भागती है करीना. So she just burst out laughing, and I thought she's laughing at me. And I said, I got a little awkward about it, and then she just looked at me and she said, "This is really funny." And then I asked her, "Are you liking it?" She says, "I'm loving it. What happens next?" And I thought, man, there's someone who has actually liked this. And then, of course, other people later, when Shahid and Kareena heard it, much later, a year later of that.
Okay, so the second choice was Kareena.
No, the first choice was Kareena. I had actually approached her initially, but somehow things didn't work out there.
Right.
And then I kind of rerouted myself later to her.
Back to her. What is it like working with her? She, in the movie, she starts off as this really bubbly character, and then the way her character transforms into this sad but still very strong, headstrong girl who refuses to acknowledge that she has been, jilted, and but her face changes, her demeanor changes, everything changes about her. Obviously, that is the director's achievement.
No, it's her achievement that she can be like that. She's a very instinctive actor.
Okay.
She is a director's delight. She has no process, and one has to be careful in directing her because she just, uh, she doesn't take time to process at all. Whatever one tells her to do, she does it quickly and does it with full force.
Okay.
So I had to actually find ways of restraining her, holding her back, so to speak, and making sure that I don't miscommunicate with her ever. Because if I tell her something wrong, she will do that something wrong.
Okay.
And she will do it with so much force and vigor that it will be difficult to then bring her back to zero and start again.
Yeah. 20
she's-
years later, you are much more mature, she's much more mature. Would you want to cast her in another film of yours? In what role would you think?
I would love to cast Kareena again in a film, and I will. And hopefully it will be something that's worthwhile doing after Geet.
Yeah.
Something that is very different from what she was in that film. And but hopefully something which is equally effervescent and vivacious.
Another film of yours, When Harry Met Sejal, brought together two of the most romantic individuals in Indian cinema. Shah Rukh Khan, the king of romance, and Imtiaz Ali, the king of romantic direction.
Yeah.
What went wrong? It did not do very well at the box office.
Yeah, I think, I'm not so sure what went wrong. I guess the film was not as good as we should have made it. That's what must have gone wrong.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm sure. Because I don't know whether I'm I don't know how much I believe in political democracy, but I do believe in the democracy of film viewing. I think people decide what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if they have not liked a certain film, then it might not have been so good.
So what makes a good film? What makes a film succeed? Is it the good lines, or obviously the storyline is there?
No, the light has to go through everything. I feel that everything has to align in a certain vision. And people in India, it's not as the audience is not forgiving. It's very forgiving. But they want to have a good time.
Yeah.
किसी ने मुझसे कहा था स्टार्टिंग ऑफ माय करियर में कि देखो जो टैक्स कटता है ना टिकट से वो एंटरटेनमेंट टैक्स होता है तो फिल्म में एंटरटेनिंग तो ज़रूर होनी चाहिए
जी बिल्कुल
तो टैक्स किस बात का दे रहे हैं तो वो भी चीज़ है मगर एक कंसिस्टेंस होनी चाहिए और ख़ास करके इंडिया में अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑल ऑफ दीज गुड थिंग्स दैट आई माइट से एंड एवरी डायरेक्टर विल से वन थिंग दैट आई हैव रियलाइज्ड इज दैट इन इंडिया people don't get satisfied if the film is not philosophically consistent.
Okay.
People in India are very philosophically strong. So they need to be convinced that the philosophy, it's not as though it has to be high philosophy, but there has to be consistency of philosophy in the film.
आपके contemporaries हैं अनुराग कश्यप, तिग्मांशु धुलिया. You all come from television background.
जी.
You never went to the film school. So do you think the television has somehow shaped your writing?
Well, yes, it has. It has been a film school for me. Television really has been a film school for me and for people like Anurag and Tigmanshu and so on and so forth. Because we got to do a huge amount of work on television. We shot for hours and hours of footage and we became better writers because we had to write on the fly.
Yeah.
Because
Episode by episode.
Yeah, not only episode by episode, but sometimes we had to do so much work in the month that sometimes there was a miscoordination. Actors would not arrive. Some other set of actors might arrive, and you still had to make good the day. So you wrote the scenes. There have been days where you shoot 5 scenes and you write all of them after knowing which actors are available for the day. And you try to do the job as well as you can.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot. And most of that stuff, thank God, is not available on the internet right now. So we don't know what mistakes we made, but I think some of us learned from those mistakes.
Okay.
And we were ready by the time we became film directors or got the chance to become film directors.
Yeah.
And none of us expected that this would happen. All of them would, I don't know, be where if the media explosion had not happened, if television had not taken off in the way that it did and provided employments to like wayward youth like us and prepared us for our dream of cinema.
Yeah. You're good looking enough to be a on the screen.
Oh,
Did
yeah,
you never
thank-
think of? Did you never think of becoming an actor, a lead actor?
See, I've been doing theatre as a kid,
Yeah.
and I had done enough theatre to know that I'm interested in direction.
Okay.
Obviously, everyone acts in theatre, and I did more acting in theatre than direction. But I was interested in writing and direction. I realized that that's my orientation, and I stuck to that. I was more comfortable directing.
Hmm. 3 films that we did not mention in our list: Tamasha, Cocktail, and Laila Majnu, which is not exactly your film. It's your brother's film that you co-wrote, right?
Right. Laila Majnu I co-wrote.
So Tamasha and Laila Majnu didn't do very well at first, but when they were re-released, they did fantastically well.
Yeah,
What is
Laila
it?
Majnu more.
Laila Majnu more.
Majnu was like that. Laila Majnu did nothing when it released.
Yeah, why?
Nothing, because at that point of time, making this film with 2 newcomers, calling it Laila Majnu, I don't know, it just didn't work. Nobody came to the theatres.
Yeah.
It was beyond a disaster. People were cancelling shows, and we didn't even hold out for a week. 6 years later it re-released, and it was a fiesta. Like, people went berserk. Theatre owners didn't know what was happening. Shows were getting added. It ran for weeks and weeks. It ran in all nooks and crannies of the theatre circuit in India.
Yeah.
And it became so popular that the team decided to make the next in the series, and He Ranja has now been announced, which is going to be directed by Sajid,
Okay.
produced by Preeti. This is the combination,
Yeah.
along with Balaji, Ekta Kapoor.
Yeah. So did audience taste changed, or?
I think people did not give it a chance in the beginning, or I think even the fraternity, the exhibition fraternity, and the distributors did not give it the push, because they did not expect newcomers की film to do anything. So the audience did not sample it really. No one came to the theatres.
Yeah.
And then over the years, on digital media and all of that, thank God for that, because that's where people consumed it, and they loved it.
Okay.
And then it became a craze. And then the distributors thought that we must bring this back into the theatres when not many movies are running,
Yeah.
just in case it does something.
Right.
And it really set the place on fire.
Now, since you wrote Cocktail, I think I will hold you accountable for this. Why did Saif Ali Khan opt for the more traditional?
I will give you Homi Adajania's number. You should call him and grill him. The moral responsibility is not mine, it's that chap's.
All right. You worked very closely with A.R. Rahman in Rockstar, of course, and now again. At what point of the story of filmmaking does he come in? And does he send back something that changes the story in any way, or is it entirely?
This is a very important question that I want to answer, but
Okay.
actually let me go back. I was just on the Homi question,
Okay.
On the cocktail
question.
I'm not going to elude that. Actually, overall, I think we did not want to put it across in the way that some people have taken it. I think not that it's Homi's fault alone. It's like all of us are together in that. But we wanted to communicate that everybody thinks they have a type of person they like.
Okay.
But when they might actually fall in love with somebody who is against their type.
Yeah.
And that was the conflict in that film. Again, an internal conflict.
Understood.
Yes, A.R. Rahman, obviously, the good thing about A.R. Rahman is that he's a collaborator on the film.
Yeah.
He's not only the music man.
Right.
He is closest to the central spine of the film, when the film is getting made. He's a film man. So, of course, he's the person that I tell the story to first. And we are not talking about song situations yet. We are just talking about the spirit of the story. And I don't tell him in great detail either. I tell him the main points, the important points in the film. And then he starts to come in mentally into it. and then eventually we start discussing the kind of songs that we are looking for. But what we do is that we don't close the window on other types of songs, because something comes from his heart. It does not really have a place in the screenplay. And to answer your question of whether what he does changes this film, it does. Because oftentimes he creates something, and I feel that, man, this just instinctively feels like this is the story I'm trying to say. The music is saying the same story. How can I use it in the film? Firstly, I even get inspired to write certain scenes. Sometimes in my films, in Rockstar, in Vaapas Aaunga, I just play the rough tracks or the improvisations that he makes. I play that in the background while I write.
Oh.
And I let myself be inspired by the music. So the music kind of comes into the psyche of me also,
right,
while I'm writing. Then sometimes I try to make songs out of that, and that cannibalizes some of the scenes. So I remove those scenes from the film.
I have one serious question. You have said in an interview before that you were inspired by the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
It has played a large part in your in your life. Just I don't want to lead you into any specific answer. I just want you to tell me, how did that happen?
Well, it happened because my father always encouraged me to travel alone in the train.
Okay.
So he put me on a train, and for an overnight train when I was in the 5th or the 6th standard, alone. And there was limited money that he left me.
Okay.
And at the railway station, I went to a bookstore to buy a book to look cool or something.
Okay.
And I didn't have too much money, so I thought, ये 5 रुपए में या 10 रुपए में कौन सी किताब मिल सकती है? And then I saw this very nice Bhagavad Gita book that I could afford because of the Bhakti Vedant Foundation, etc. The price is quite rebated, you know. So, then I could afford that, and I took it. I went for it because of the beautiful picture of the chariot and Krishna and Arjun, and the horses and the battlefield and all that. Very beautiful picture. And then I took that, and then I knew it is the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, I'd heard of it and I'd heard from it.
English में थी कि हिंदी?
English translation था, हिंदी थी. English translation था, हिंदी में भी translation था. And then it was like a flip kind of a book.
Okay.
From top. It was a fat book. तो ट्रेन में ही ना रात को I lay down and I read something, and it spoke so directly. I was like, I sat up. Like, यार ये तो, this is clearing my head. Then I read more and more. And then I got into the habit that I would keep it on my bedside, and every night before going to sleep, I would read a few pages. And it would make so much sense, and it put me to ease in all kinds of like the day-to-day competitiveness of school life, of, feeling lonely and not knowing what the purpose is. And, it's like whatever age you get introduced to something like that, it speaks to you. Bhagavad Gita doesn't have to wait for you to grow up to be 25 to understand. It's a very simple text actually. It remained in my subconscious because I kept reading of it, and the same pages again and again sometimes, or went through it and then open it and at any point read a few pages, read half a chapter or whatever, go to sleep. So I think I imbibed it like that, and then I didn't try for any of it to come out in any of my works. But I think just being with me, it might reflect here and there.
Nice.
And then if I sit down, and one day we should, just to have coffee and talk about this, I can even quote instances from my own films where I see the presence of Bhagavad Gita.
That's amazing. Imtiaz Ali, it has been a wonderful an hour or so talking to you.
Yeah, I don't know. An hour is past, I can't believe.
I'm really very, very happy that I got this opportunity.
No, it was a huge pleasure, sir.
I have just one final question.
Yes, sir.
मैं वापस आऊँगा के बाद में कोई मैं वापस आऊँगा दूसरी फिल्म कौन सी वापस आओ
मैं ज़रूर वापस आऊँगा. I have to make many more films at a faster rate, I hope.
Right.
There are 2 or 3 films that I'm thinking about. One of them is set in the Northeast in the 80s.
Lovely.
And there are others as well. So hopefully, but I've not really started working on them. Like I've just written some scripts. So, but let's see. But soon, I hope.
And if you ever want to make a movie about journalism, our newsroom is ready waiting for your set.
You have said that on tape.
Oh my
Believe
God.
me, I will make you regret these words. Because मैं वापस आऊँगा यहाँ shoot करने के लिए.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.